Alright, what's up everybody? My name is James. Welcome to my channel. Last week on the Flat is Fast series, I brought you guys a 3-pack for the video. This week is only a 2-pack. I'm sorry. But it's really interesting. I promise. The first race, I used much more standard tactics, where I was conserving a lot of energy in the bunch, and then the sprint has a little surprise in it. And then the second race is definitely a first for me. I got into a break of 5 and we essentially do a team time trial for about 27 minutes, which is the entirety of the race. There are definitely a lot of talking points when it comes to tactics, so let's hop in. Alright, 2:40 left before this Flat is Fast. This is on the fan flats in Richmond. Stage 5. We got 13 in here right now. Should be a few more coming. The reason I hopped into this one is because, one, the field size looks to be one of the larger ones at least, and there's some really strong guys here, so it should be a fun race. This is a very flat course, so I am looking at 20-minute raw watts, not looking at the watt per kg. And 375, 364, 337, 321, 303, 286. Those are the top people for 20-minute raw watts. For the sprint, we can look at watt per kg, I guess. 13, 12, 11, 11, 11. I think I'm somewhere in the mid-10s. Yeah, so goal will be to get podium, I guess, as far as result goes. But just want to race this one pretty well. This is a much flatter course than a lot of the previous ones. There is one section that's like a 3-4% rise. Maybe it'll get a little bit hard there. The rest of it, I think it's just going to be full on doing like tempo sweet spot up to threshold just to hang with the pack. But that's how most of these things go. Oh, there's LM. LM Evo. He's the one with the gigantic 20-minute power. So, alright, let's turn on the fans. Let's get going. Alright, it looks like we got 18 in the race here. There's a short lead-in into the 3 laps that we're going to be doing today. And at 0.2 kilometers is where you get your first power-up. It's going to be either the aero helmet or the drafting boost on this one.
This M.Harn guy, ESRT, he's probably going to be very consequential. Team NL guys riding together, as a team should. Almost every turn on this course is a left turn, except for one, I think. So staying on the left side of the road pretty much the entire race is going to be the plan.
I get a little bit bored, so I throw in a little attack. Boredom is probably the worst reason to throw an attack ever, so don't do that. And I knew this was going to be brought back, but I knew I had plenty of time to recover in the pack later in the race.
Nice warm up there. Just realized that that was a bad spot to attack. I mean, it was good that I was able to take the inside line and use my aero helmet usefully. But a few guys popped the drafting boost before the banner, and they were going to do that anyway. So learn something.
We're going to speed through the next 12 kilometers, and then we'll take a look at the last couple.
right, 2 kilometers to go. In the past, in these situations where the race was not very hard, mentally, I get into a lull. Gotta be prepared. There goes Jay Weber. All right, let's get up. Get up, get up, get up. Guy in the yellow behind me, gotta watch him. There goes Harn.
Yeah, so I predicted that M.Harn would be consequential in the race. He made a late move here. He did exactly the right thing in terms of committing to that move and going all in. I decided not to follow it in the moment because I feel like this is a pretty fast finish, and I'm feeling really good about my position right now.
Oh my God. Ah! No! Man, my foot came unclipped. Could have had podium, for sure. Damn it. Well, after my tiny race video where my cleat came undone, I didn't change my cleat. Stupid me. I'm gonna change my cleats now. 4:30 left until this next race. I say this all the time, but there's some strong guys here. But what I'm realizing is that a lot of these personal bests for 20 minutes and like whatever it is, any power numbers for any duration, it's when most of these guys are probably fresh. And that probably goes for, you know, any Zwifter, but I pretty much only use Zwift for racing. So all my power numbers are during races. So, I mean, I guess, I don't know. My power numbers probably don't fully represent my capability maybe, which, I don't know, maybe it's an advantage, but anyone who watches my videos would be more familiar, at least, with how I race and what kind of power numbers I can do. But it's probably not too far off from what I can do fresh anyway, because there's more adrenaline pumping when you're racing. So last race you probably saw it, my left pedal came unclipped again. Apparently when I'm pushing a heavier gear and I'm pulling a little bit more also, it just comes unclipped. So I'm gonna try to do this without getting injured. Can you see that? Blue cleats, just because I can't find my new yellow ones. But we'll see how this goes. Definitely more locked into the pedal, less float, which is obviously by design. I'm more used to having a lot of float. But we'll see how it goes.
All right, so last race was kind of disappointing in the end. We are coming out the gate here, and you can immediately see that someone just takes off. It's H. Hallam, Henry Hallam. Generally speaking, on a really flat course like this, doing a solo move off the front is pretty crazy. But at the same time, there are 22 people in this race, and there might be a couple people mentally sleeping. And if you look at the mini-map, it actually looks like there are a couple people who are off the back already. As we're coming up to the first banner, it looks like Henry has about a 2 to 3 second gap. Me personally, I'm not very good at long sustained efforts, which is why I don't really try to get into breakaways. But sometimes if you're bad at something, you just gotta try it and get better. So actually, once I got the aero helmet here, I decided that I was going to bridge up to Henry, and then I would wait and see what the pack would do.
Let's try it.
And for the rest of this race, we're pretty much going to be talking about how to ride in a break, and also for this particular race, how the dynamics kind of worked out.
This is definitely going to pressure them.
So once I took off after Henry Hallam, there were a couple guys who decided to follow me. You see them back there. One of them is named MacLeod, and he's wearing blue. The other is named Krajnik, and he's wearing black.
Let's roll through.
Alright, so from my knowledge, when you join a breakaway, if you want to show that you're committed to the break, you pull through immediately and you get on the front. One of the easiest ways to sabotage and kill a break entirely is to join the break and then to sit on right away. Especially this early in the race, for any break to stick, essentially you guys have to work together like your teammates. And you'll see what I mean right here. MacLeod comes up to the front. I mean, maybe he pulls through a little bit too hard, but he's definitely committed, you can tell. But the three of us here are eventually going to find MacLeod's wheel after we chase him down a little bit, and then once we form a group of 4, it essentially becomes a team time trial. If you look at the gap to the pack, it's only 2 seconds or so, so it'd really be easy for any of us to just give up here and to just be reabsorbed by the pack, and then that would be that. But I think all of us just had the same idea that if we just kept pushing and we kept working together, and if we extended the gap a little bit, that eventually we could break the spirit of the group. And yeah, that's what we try to do. Now, within the first couple minutes of this break, it was very obvious that MacLeod was a diesel, and that he has a very big engine. At this point, we've been pretty consistently maintaining this 3-second gap or so from the pack. And maybe this guy, K.iVi, sensed that the spirit of the group was dying a little bit, so he bridges up to us at this point. And a lot of people say that 4 to 5 riders or so is probably the ideal number for a breakaway, and any larger would just be a dysfunctional breakaway and it would probably fall apart, which I think there's some truth to that.
One guy coming up. Hopefully he rolls through.
But definitely adding one more rider to this breakaway could potentially change the dynamics too. So I'm really curious as to what this guy's going to do. We are over 3 minutes into this race. I'm averaging 320 watts or so. And I want this 5th guy who joins us to work, because we are really going to need each other to make this break stick all the way to the finish line. So you might have seen when he was coming up behind me, I did a little flick, flick. Just making sure. This elbow flick probably never works ever in Zwift. But, you know, I still use these things because they're there. And who knows, maybe 1 out of 100 people will comply and they will pull through when I flick the elbow. But either way, I flicked, he didn't come through. And then this is the game that people will play in a breakaway or in any situation really. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to find a balance of helping the group and making your objectives possible. But also, you don't want to do too much work because then you'll have nothing for the finish. And you still want to conserve, right? So there's definitely a pretty delicate balance when it comes to this type of thing.
Let's do it.
Priority number 1 right now is to keep the break together. And we've worked really hard to build this 4-second gap to the group behind us. So I decided to pull in front of Henry here because K.iVi's definitely not going to do it. So it's little efforts like these that can definitely keep the break going. So K.iVi definitely seems like a strong rider, and he definitely seems capable of helping out. So I hit him with the elbow again. And then look at this.
Thanks for snapping, dude.
Yeah, that's pretty annoying. So I'm gonna assume that the way K.iVi is riding is intentional and he knows what he's doing. By snapping some power there, he's forcing us to snap power behind him, which can sting the legs a little bit. And to me, the message that he's sending in that moment is that he's in it for himself and he's not really willing to cooperate with the group or with others. Because if he was willing to cooperate, he probably would have just ramped up his power and then sat in front of me and then helped us bridge back up to these two guys in the front. But yeah, these kinds of things are all things that you're going to have to contend with all the time when it comes to racing or when you're in a break. Each individual will race the race how they want to, and it's up to you to manage it and try to beat them with tactics and other strategies. All right, we are 15 minutes into the race now, 8.7 kilometers left. MacLeod is still powering on the front, and K.iVi, again, not so smooth about putting down the power, trying to bridge up to MacLeod on his own. And the reason I'm showing this clip is because MacLeod and Krajnik, this is where they start to do the pain dangle, unfortunately for them. At this point in the race, there are only two things that I'm really thinking about. One is how big is the gap behind us to the peloton, and then the other thing that I'm thinking is I need to stay with the break and keep pushing forward with them. Every once in a while, I am looking at my average power. To be completely honest, I'm not really looking at my heart rate. It's not uncommon for me to be able to average around like 191 or 192 beats per minute for 20 minutes. But either way, I feel like looking at heart rate during a race or a really hard effort is somewhat useless. And what I mean by that is that sometimes people will see a really high heart rate and then they'll think, oh my gosh, I'm at my limit. And then they might mentally just feel like they're going to blow up soon, even though they might have actually a lot more in the tank. And then on the flip side, sometimes if you look at a low heart rate during a hard effort, sometimes you might think, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Am I fatigued? And then it'll play with you mentally like that. But I remember during this race, I was averaging close to 300 watts. And instead of worrying about not being able to hold the pace because I was doing power numbers that were beyond what I've done before, I actually got kind of pumped. So I was in a position where I was going to get a 20-minute power PR. Yeah, I was pretty motivated by that, but I was a little bit shocked at the number. I am still a little bit shocked even a couple days after this race, because my previous number was 280, I think, for 20 minutes. And for this race, I ended up getting 295. Anyway, we just came through the banner for the last time. This is our last power-up for the race. And without really giving it a second thought, I decided to use it here. And I immediately regretted it.
Should have saved it.
I was pretty much at my limit. I was pretty certain I wasn't going to get dropped, though, from this break of 3. So yeah, this was probably my biggest mistake of the race so far. And then, spoiler alert, I make a couple more later. All right, 1 kilometer to go. MacLeod is still on the front. He's a powerhouse. Tactically speaking, it's probably not the best move in terms of conservation of energy, but there are some people who really enjoy riding like this, and I have absolutely no qualms about it because I like sitting in the draft. But it's clear to me that K.iVi has been conserving more energy than we have in general. So mistake number 2 of this race was not sitting in until maybe 200 or 300 meters to go. In this particular situation, I would probably say 8 times out of 10 from a breakaway like this, I might have the best kick out of anyone. So I definitely should have just sat in behind these two. But not thinking really clearly, I decided to go right before this hairpin turn. And then mistake number 3 is when I do this attack, I don't snap off the power very quickly, and I essentially telegraph the move. And then I fiddle with the view a little bit, and I don't commit to the move. So that was another mistake that I made. But yeah, this was a mess regardless. After seeing I didn't really get a gap, I decided to lay off the power a little bit, let K.iVi come around me. I've been talking quite a lot about momentum in Zwift. I lose momentum because I stop pedaling hard, and then I have to catch back onto his wheel, and I do that. But then I decide to take a micro recovery, which again makes me lose a little bit more momentum. And then in the end, I just left it too late to sprint around him at all. But either way, good result overall. P2. Learned a lot from this race. Very happy with the 20-minute power PR. Zwift estimated my new FTP to be at 289 based on this effort. That's not really believable to me. So on Trainer Road, it estimated my FTP to be 285 because I just had an FTP estimation. I think that's a little bit more accurate, so I'm gonna go with 285. But weighing in around 71 kilograms, that's around 4 watts per kilogram, which is where I want it to be heading into this road season coming up in 2025. So I'm really happy about that. So yeah, my overall training is going really well. My ZRS after the first race went from 600 to 607. This time it went from 607 to 619. So 619 is where I am right now. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe if you would like to. I will catch you guys in the next video. Beep boop.